Now, for the past month or so, one of the big talking points on the channel has been that the Kansas City Chiefs want to peak at the right time. It does a team no good to come out firing on all cylinders in week one of an 18-week, 17-game season. And it seems that the Kansas City Chiefs not only know that, but they are executing on it. The Kansas City Chiefs are not playing for the mid-season title. The Kansas City Chiefs are not playing for some type of all-star break that is not there in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs obviously are playing for destiny, for dynasty, for the postseason. And this game against the Steelers really proved some of that. And I have some talking points on this game, the last time we will see many of these starters until the postseason. So get your popcorn ready, because it's going to be about a month until we see Patrick Mahomes again. But that's where we need to start this. Patrick Mahomes has not been sacked in 3 weeks. Patrick Mahomes has not been sacked facing Myles Garrett, who has 12 sacks on the season, Will Anderson, from the Texans, who has 11 sacks on the season, Danielle Hunter from that very same team, who has 12 sacks on the season, and TJ Watt, who has 11 and a half. The offensive line is coming together, and I have a larger talking point about that later, so I will not belabor the point here. The offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs is still shorthanded. The offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs is all of a sudden not allowing Patrick Mahomes to be touched. He has taken very few I think it's like 3 or 6 quarterback hits over the last 3 weeks, which is a far cry from the times where Patrick Mahomes was being sacked 5 times in a game, 3 times in a game, etc. Part of that is play calling. Part of that is Patrick Mahomes adjusting when he is throwing the ball. But part of that plays into a larger narrative that we will also cover later in this video. So Patrick Mahomes not being sacked in 3 weeks, coincidentally, that Patrick Mahomes has been injured for about a month with his yearly December excursion through ankle torture and treachery. That is a big deal for this team heading into the postseason, when what happens in the postseason, you want to play defense, you want to get to the quarterback, and you want to stop the run. Those are 3 things that are going to be very difficult for opponents of the Kansas City Chiefs. In addition to that, talking point number 2 here, Patrick Mahomes has not thrown an interception since November 17th. The early season narrative on Patrick Mahomes was that somehow this far into a season, the NFL had finally figured him out, and that 11-17 against the Buffalo Bills was 6 games ago. If the NFL has finally figured him out, they're having a very difficult time keeping up on that homework now. I'm going to get into the practice point a little bit later, but this is absolutely playing into that. Not throwing an interception at the end of the season when you began the season riddled with interceptions is another sign that early in the season, when the games are less consequential, Patrick Mahomes was seeing, hey, what can these guys do? Can I make this throw? What are we doing here? At crunch time, when Patrick Mahomes has to be lights out, he is. Not turning the ball over is something that a lot of teams struggle with more as the season goes on, because their playbook is out there. Teams know, look at what happened against the Browns? The Texans. The Texans were a very heavy screen game offense. Throw the ball to your wide receiver at the line of scrimmage, see what he can get. If he can get 5 yards, you have a numbers game at the edge that you don't have in the center of the defense. The middle of the defense is 4 down linemen and 3 linebackers. So trying to run against a front like that, 7 against basically 6, you have 5 offensive linemen and your ball carrier, is a numbers disadvantage for the offense. On the perimeter, usually you're about even. You have 2 wide receivers, a cornerback and a safety, or 2 corners, whatever the combination is, you have a numbers game there that can be won. The Chiefs snuffed that out. Tons of tackles for loss at the cornerback position against the Texans. As a playbook gets out there, teams are able to figure out what an offense is doing, and they're able to counter that. They're able to be defensive against it because they know 80% likely in this formation, this down and distance, it's going to be a screen. The Chiefs don't have to deal with that because they have they have Andy Reid, who will call so many different plays, and they have Patrick Mahomes, who will execute those plays later on in the season as games have to be won. All of a sudden, this offense is able to mix things up. This offense is able to get the ball out, and Patrick Mahomes is able to complete passes that for other offenses, I guess I should say, would be problematic. The Chiefs don't have to worry about that. The third thing that I think is worth mentioning from this game is something that seems small from the outside. The Justin Watson drive had a 40-yard reception and then a touchdown on that drive. To you and me, that seems like a nice thing. We like Justin Watson. Justin Watson has taken a brunt of criticism this season, and it seems like, oh, okay, the offense has another weapon that they can throw the ball to. But it's something bigger than that to the players. To the players, well, Justin Watson is... Do you remember how it was always commented on that Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt had good games against the Browns, and this seemed like a strange thing because they were from Cleveland. They're going out and they're ready to shine, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's because they were from there. And Andy Reid knew that, and he could highlight those players in the game plan, get those players their moments in front of their hometown. Why am I talking about that in correlation to Justin Watson? Well, Justin Watson, and I am no geography expert, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but he is from a place called, I don't remember what it's called. I'm going to be real honest with you. But from what I remember, it's slightly outside of Pittsburgh. So basically, Justin Watson is playing in front of a home crowd, and here he is highlighted. The players know this. The players recognize this. Justin Watson will forever be, in his heart, indebted to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes for making those moments happen. Justin Watson absolutely, did I say Justin Reid? Justin Watson absolutely wanted to shine at least a little bit in Pittsburgh. So here's a thing that I can't explain. I've spent a whole lot of time trying to figure it out. I've spent some time trying to understand, and there are small things that we can point to. So the offense is coming together, the defense is coming together. On the offense, you can kind of explain this by the way that the wide receivers are back now. Hollywood Brown is on the field. There is a divergence from the talent that was once carrying the Chiefs' offense, even meagerly so. The offense is able to do things a little bit differently. Well, the defense is coming together too. This happens with the defense. This is how a Spags defense operates. But the portions of these things that I can't explain is all of a sudden the offensive and defensive lines coming together. The offensive line, you can say, well, yeah, you have a different left tackle. Joe Thuney is out there playing left tackle for the Chiefs. That is going to make things go much better. For the defensive line, you can say Charles Omenihu is back. That opens things up. You would have a hard time explaining to me why that would open things up in the absence of Chris Jones. Chris Jones was not on the line against the Steelers, and they still produced 5 sacks. You could go further into this analysis and say, well, yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers are pretty universally ranked in the bottom third of the league on offensive line. The Chiefs have played a lot of teams that are on the bottom third of the offensive line rankings for the NFL, in the NFL, and they haven't had these types of results, regardless of whether or not Chris Jones was on the field. If you want to explain to me that Charles Omenihu is more consequential to this defensive line, or that Charles Omenihu is more consequential to this defensive line than Chris Jones, I'll listen. I don't know if that's true. You can explain to me that Joe Thuney is a better left tackle than the players below him on the roster now. And yeah, I will agree with you. You would have a hard time explaining pardon me, you would have a hard time explaining to me that Joe Thuney is better at left tackle than he was at left guard. The offensive and defensive lines emerging for the Kansas City Chiefs the past couple of weeks is a phenomenon that I simply cannot explain, and is going to be good for this team in the playoffs, for lack of a better word, because the line play in the playoffs is absolutely what these games will come down to. So, while and whereas there are small things to describe, perhaps, the evolution of the offensive and defensive lines for the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know that there's anything to explain it, where all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes goes from getting sacked 5 times to 0 times, and from where all of a sudden the Kansas City Chiefs defensive line goes from producing 0 sacks to 5. I don't know that those explanations are there. Even a guy struggling like Kingsley Suamataia, he's an NFL talent. He's an NFL player. Having him on the field is not going to be as detrimental to the Chiefs as it would have seemed earlier in the season. The last couple talking points here are probably simpler. This game, these 2 talking points are outside of the Steelers game. This game had a 24.1 million viewership despite the Netflix platform. The NFL is king, and that is why it seems that hate is coming from everywhere. Also, Travis Kelce, for sure. Also, Patrick Mahomes and his voice, for sure. These are things which are easy to hate on for the Kansas City Chiefs. The fact that NFL is king, the fact that so many people are turning towards independent media, such as this, for even sports coverage, but also for their news, for their entertainment, is going to drive negativity in the mainstream media. Negativity gets views. The idea that the Chiefs are somehow unfairly capitalizing on penalties that are called unfairly for them is ludicrous. There are enough talking heads and morons in mainstream media willing to play up this point that it gives the people who are going to watch NFL football an easy out for their rage. This gives so many people the easy opportunity to talk about something that is false and fabricated, that is conspiracy theorist, that it is going to give leverage to those arguments. They're so easy to talk about. We can point to so many things. Nobody ever makes the case on the opposite end of things. And the NFL fan bases, they're tired of the Kansas City Chiefs. Point blank, period. Straight up, flat out. Tired of the Kansas City Chiefs. And I cannot blame them. The last point is this. I've been going back and looking at some of the other games from this season. Remember the whole issue about why are you giving it to Isaiah Pacheco on 4th and 1 twice, or 3rd and 1 and then 4th and 1 when you have Kareem Hunt on the field? Well, here's the thing. 1,000% what that points to is that the Kansas City Chiefs are using these games as practice. How do I say that? Why do I say that? Where's the evidence for that? Well, if they needed it, and when they need it in games, they go to Kareem Hunt. So you give your other players an opportunity to understand and know, have the confidence that they can make that play when you don't have to have that play. When you don't have to win, when it is in the meat of the game as opposed to early in the game when you're trying to score points and get a lead, make it a game of possessions, make it a game that is mathematically sort of deconstructible. I know I have a 2-possession lead. I know that I have a possession lead, and I can move the ball on this defense. Well, then I'm going to give the ball to Isaiah Pacheco so that in the postseason, if we don't have Kareem Hunt for whatever reason and Isaiah Pacheco gets on the field, he knows in the back of his head, yeah, I can make this 4th and 1. I've done it before. Now, it didn't work out in that particular instance. It doesn't have to. It didn't have to. The Chiefs won. In the postseason, there will be much less experimentation. In the postseason, this team is going to dot their I's and cross their T's. This team is going to 1,000% get on the field and execute in the way that they know how. That is another addition to the ever-growing portfolio that is an example of how the Kansas City Chiefs are using the regular season as practice for the postseason. This isn't new. Teams have always done this, but it's only teams that do. The only teams that do this are teams that have a larger goal in mind. Teams that don't have to win right now. Teams that don't have to convert that fourth down right now in order to win the game, to win the division, to get into the playoffs, to secure the bye week. That is what we are seeing from these Kansas City Chiefs. That is what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And I hope to have you back for the next one.